Commercial in the Super Bowl last year, the 2-minute Springsteen ad cost Jeep about $22 million.
This is CBC Radio 1, 990 AM, 89.3 FM in Winnipeg.
The National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. It's a day of hope, awareness, and reflection. Hi, I'm Phelan Johnson. As we acknowledge the rich and diverse cultures, voices, experiences, and histories of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people, join me for a very special program honoring the survivors and paying tribute to the children who never made it home. This Monday at 8 p.m., 8:30 in Newfoundland on CBC Radio 1 and on the Listen app.
You know the feeling of finding a really good podcast? Or the feeling of someone always being there, like your favorite radio show? Stream CBC Podcasts, CBC Music, and CBC Radio anytime, anywhere.
This is CBC News. Good afternoon. I'm Rosanna Hempel. At 12 o'clock, it's 23 in Winnipeg. Sunny today, south wind gusting to 70 kilometers an hour, a high of 29. The Manitoba Federation of Labour says it's time for the Canoe government to stop using minimum wage rules established by Brian Pallister. The Federation says as we near the one-year anniversary of the NDP government's win, it should change the laws that cap the increase at inflation. The Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives says a living wage in Winnipeg is $19.21 an hour. That's about $3 more than the current minimum wage. Niall Harney is with the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives.
Workers who are earning less than a living wage are overwhelmingly educated and in the prime of their working years. These results run counter to arguments that raising the minimum wage will only help teenagers living at home. 43.9% of workers earning less than a living wage are between the ages of 25 and 54.
Both organizations say increasing wages can benefit business because people who can cover their basic expenses spend their money more in local businesses. The final pieces are coming together for the redevelopment of downtown Winnipeg's Portage Place Mall. The federal government is slated to assist the $650 million project, the CBC's Bartley Kivas reports.
Federal Liberal Cabinet Minister Dan Vandal is holding a news conference on Friday at Portage Place. He's expected to announce a federal contribution toward the proposed redevelopment of the mall. Government sources say it will be $10 million towards community spaces in the project. The real estate wing of the company that owns the Winnipeg Jets has until the end of this month to close a deal to purchase the mall and redevelop it. True North Real Estate Development's plans include a healthcare tower on one side, a residential tower on the other, and replacing the glass atrium in the middle of the mall with a new block of Edmonton Street. City Council is slated to vote today on a $40 million package of municipal grants and tax relief for the project. The province has agreed to lease space in the healthcare tower for 35 years. That works out to $77 million above existing healthcare spending. Bartley Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Now to Ottawa.
The House has lost confidence in the government and offers Canadians...
From the floor of the House of Commons, that is another non-confidence motion being put forward by the opposition Conservatives. With the help of the NDP and the Bloc Québécois, the Liberal minority survived an identical non-confidence vote yesterday. Now the Conservatives are trying again. Today's motion will be voted on next week. And now to the Middle East.
We now face the risk of an all-out war.
The U.S. Secretary of Defense warns the consequences for the region would be devastating. Lloyd Austin says it's not too late for diplomacy. Dozens of nations, including Canada, are urging Israel and Hezbollah to agree to a 21-day ceasefire deal. Still, Israel's prime minister is vowing to continue attacks on Hezbollah targets. Days of strikes against the Iran-backed militia group have killed hundreds of people in Lebanon, including civilians. Iran's foreign minister has this warning for Israel.
Iran will not remain indifferent in case of a full-scale war in Lebanon. We stand with the people of Lebanon with all means.
Meanwhile, Hezbollah continues to fire rockets and drones into Israel. and the Israeli army chief has told troops to prepare for a potential ground incursion into Lebanon. Canadian hip-hop singer Kanon has been charged with sexual assault related to an incident in Quebec City in 2010. The victim, a woman then in her 20s, filed a complaint with police in 2022. Kanon, whose real name is Kanon Abdi Warsami, now lives in Brooklyn, New York, and was not in court today. But his lawyer told a Quebec City court he wanted a trial in English in front of a jury. Kanon is best known for the 2009 international hit Wavin' Flag. Prosecutors have charged New York City Mayor Eric Adams with bribery and campaign funding violations. Damian Williams is the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York.
He solicited and knowingly accepted illegal campaign contributions from foreign donors and corporations. Mayor Adams took these contributions even though he knew they were illegal.
Prosecutors also allege Adams took personal gifts, including more than $100,000 in luxury travel. The mayor says he will vigorously defend himself.
And I ask New Yorkers to wait to hear our defense before making any judgments.
Adams has also rejected calls for him to step down. He says he will continue to act as New York mayor while the case proceeds. Hurricane Helene has been upgraded to a Category 2 storm as it advances across the Gulf of Mexico toward Florida. That's the outer reaches of the hurricane being felt along Florida's Gulf Coast. Landfall is expected later this evening, with forecasters expecting a severe storm surge across a vast area on the state's northwestern coastline. Starting this afternoon, communities in the direct path are being told to expect prolonged power outages, uprooted trees, and potentially dangerous flooding. That is the CBC News from Winnipeg. Your next local CBC News is at 12:30.
Good afternoon, Manitoba. You're listening to Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1, 89.3 FM, 990 AM, and everywhere on YouTube. I'm Corey Funk. Good to be with you on this sunny, very summer-like September afternoon. Well, coming up this hour on the show, summer holidays are long gone, believe it or not, but the gas tax holiday has been extended until the end of the year. We're opening up the phone lines to hear whether it's made a difference in your life. We're also going to be joined by someone from the Taxpayers Federation. But this half hour on the show, Lac du Bonnie is hosting their first Truth and Reconciliation event, and the mayor says they're already at capacity. We're going to speak with him. But first on the show, a southern Manitoba flour mill was broken into not once, but twice in the course of a week. We're going to hear from its owner up first here on Radio Noon. Well, when Julie Ellis walked into her Blue Manort flour mill last Monday, it didn't take long to realize that something was off. She quickly discovered she'd been broken into. Then a week later, it happened again. She's the owner of Bloom Bakery and Mill and joins us now. Good afternoon, Julie.
Hi, good afternoon.
So take us back to last Monday, to the moment you realized you'd been broken into. What happened?
I was just coming from my son's school. I walked into the building and I saw boxes kind of misplaced and quickly realized that things were kind of trashed and taken.
So what kind of things did they take?
I do a lot of farmers markets, St. Norbert and Wolseley farmers markets, and so they took our, blue canopy tent, our trolley, even things that, what would they ever do with it, like our display, our sample flour bags and stuff like that. And then in the front of the mill space that's kind of sectioned off, we have been building a new home, and we've been storing our kind of like special possessions there that we were waiting to move into our new house. So kind of family heirlooms and things like that.
Oh no, what kind of family heirlooms?
An antique tackle box that my dad had given my son recently. That was a real heartbreaker because it was kind of all the only thing that we had been given from my grandpa, and an antique light and a couple other things.
So obviously a lot of these things are priceless, but what do you think the total value is of the things that were stolen from you?
Probably around $6,000.
Oh, man. And how do you think they broke in? Like, how did they literally break in?
Well, the first time they took a crowbar to the side door, and then we were changing all the locks and securing the building. And the second time they got in through the front door.
Oh, really? Did they break the front door? How did that work?
We think that they slipped something in between the kind of latch, like some sort of piece of metal or something, slipped it through. But now we've changed all the locks, and now it was a day before we had put security cameras in, which was kind of a bummer, to say the least.
And what was like the moment when you realized you'd been broken into twice?
I went in to go and mill flour. We mill it fresh every week, and I walked in, and it just didn't feel like the latch was quite, there. And I knew for sure that I had closed it properly, and then I saw that our garage door that's in the back of the mill space was just left wide open. And it just kind of felt like such a slap in the face of what else can you take from me? You've already taken all of our, even our cash box, everything. And it's my son and I that do the markets together, and he's 12, and it's like, that's what we worked for all summer, right?
Mm-hmm. Do you think it's the same people that did it?
My guess would be that it is. I've heard of that, where people come back a second time, like kind of a week or two afterwards, knowing that you'd replace things.
And I know you filed a police report. How hopeful are you that they'll find the people that did this?
I'm a pretty optimistic person, but I don't know. It's nice that there's so many people out there that are kind of looking on Kijiji and Marketplace and things like that for the stuff. But I have to hold on hope, but for sure that we won't get the cash back. But I'd love to get some of the sentimental things back. That would be nice.
Mm-hmm. And what's been the community's reaction since they discovered you've been broken into not only once, but twice?
We have actually a really great community in the Southeast, and people are really sympathetic and just want to support us. And we've had a lot of people actually reach out and ask if they could start a GoFundMe page for us. And overall, I think we look at our life that we're very privileged and lucky people just to be that. I think the best way for people to support us is just to actually just buy our flour.
And tell me a little bit about what you do. You've got actually a pretty unique operation. Tell me about your business and how it started.
Yeah, so my background is baking, especially sourdough. That's what I did professionally for a lot of years. And then it was really hard to find good quality flour at a reasonable cost. And so my family, my husband's family, they own a fifth generation grain and turkey farm. And so then I started thinking and looking into flour mills and looking at stone flour mills in particular, because they crush the grain instead of stripping it. So all of the nutrition, the oils, the healthy bacteria, the germ, everything is kept intact. And so I looked into that. I bought a stone flour mill. It was probably a 3-year process to get it actually up and off the ground, of just getting more electricity, like hydro, to the building and packaging and all of that stuff. So this summer is our first summer where we're actually up and going. And so our goal is to cut out as many middle people as we can to keep the price at a reasonable price. I'd really love to provide flour that's accessible for everybody, and not just, it's a high-end flour, but the price doesn't need to be that.
Well, that's a bit of a road bump in getting your business started, I guess, to put it mildly. But I'm glad. It seems like the community's been rallying to help you out, and all the best as you kind of get things back up and running.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, no, we're so passionate about it that it's going to take more than this to kind of slow us down, but it is a bump, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, all the best and enjoy the rest of your day.
Okay, thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Julie Ellis is the owner of Bloom Bakery and Mill in Blumenort.
Your neighborhood, your community, your country, your world, your news that matters, news that belongs to you. Your World Tonight, every night, 7 days a week on CBC Radio 1, on demand on the CBC Listen app, and everywhere you get your podcasts.
Hi, I'm Sarocha Coelho, host of the Saturday afternoon call-in show Just Asking, now expanding to 2 hours.
And I'm Ian Hannamansing, host of the Sunday afternoon call-in show Cross Country Checkup.
Whether it's world events
or what's happening in your backyard,
every weekend we connect Canada live.
That's Just Asking with Sarocha Coelho, Saturday afternoons at 4 Eastern.
And Cross Country Checkup with Ian Hannamansing, Sunday afternoons at 4 Eastern on CBC Radio 1.
You're listening to Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1. I'm Corey Funk, and still to come on the show, stay tuned for our call-in conversation. The Canadian Taxpayers Federation is going to join us in studio to talk about the newly extended gas tax holiday here in Manitoba. We're going to open up the phone lines, too, to hear how it's impacted your pocketbooks or not. You can give us a call after 12:35. Also, we're going to chat with the mayor of Lac du Bonnet coming right out because they are hosting their first Truth and Reconciliation event this weekend, and it sold out pretty darn quick. We're going to hear from him about what to expect in Lac du Bonnet this weekend. But first, let's take a look at your weather across the province. Here in Winnipeg right now, we're sitting at 26, heading for a high today of 29. It's going to be a sunny, balmy day, but it is going to drop to about 10 degrees overnight. So you will get a little bit of relief. It is going to cool off and feel a little bit more like fall once the sun sets. Looking across the province right now, in Brandon, you are sitting at 22, mainly sunny. Churchill at the airport, 17 right now. You are a cold spot in the province. Not bad for a cold spot right now. Our hot spot right now, if you're wondering, is Deerwood, Manitoba. Dauphin right now at the airport, sunny, 25 degrees. Gimli, you are at 24 right now. Melita, 22 and sunny. Thompson at the airport, partly cloudy, 21. And once again in Winnipeg, mainly sunny and 23. Well, the town of Lac du Bonnet is hosting its inaugural Truth and Reconciliation event this weekend. The Manitoba Métis Federation's local is co-hosting it. It's called Pathways to Truth and Reconciliation. Ken Lodge wears 2 hats. He is chairperson of the Manitoba Métis Federation for Lac du Bonnet local. He's also the town's mayor. Hello there, Ken.
Good afternoon. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for joining us. So tell us a little bit about, the decision to put on the town's first Truth and Reconciliation event. How did that come about?
Well, it initially came about during one of our Lac du Bonnet local Métis Federation executive meetings, where we had discussed as to what it was we could potentially do within our local. And one of our executives became aware of a grant that was available through the federal government for, I guess, the Department of Culture. I can't remember the full title, unfortunately, but they were very supportive. So we made the application, and we were allowed to have a grant to put on this event. And we felt, as a local, it was important to start the dialogue over potentially what is perceived to be truth that we've all been, taught through school and just through social interaction, and how that basically is a counterpoint to other truths that over time have become the reality. And I don't want to refer to it as other truth. It's more like a reconciliation, truthfully, of what we've been taught as opposed to what we now know to be true. And so we decided we had to put the event on.
Mm-hmm. And why particularly in Lac du Bonnet? What kind of unique challenges are you finding? As a Métis man yourself in the area of Lac du Bonnet?
Well, as you can appreciate, we're a very mixed community, but I think ultimately what it came down to is we recognize that there are other large events being planned in major urban centers, but we also recognize that while we're talking about truth and reconciliation, this is not something that is strictly unique to large urban centers. In fact, in many cases was, carried out in the more rural and remote areas by virtue of that's where the majority of the Aboriginal people and First Nations people lived, hundreds of years ago. So consequently, with the lack of activities going on in the rural areas, we felt that it would be valuable to be able to have this sort of a dialogue in our community, knowing full well that we can still touch the hearts and the thoughts of a lot of people that live out here who have been indoctrinated in the same way that everybody who's gone to school in Canada has. So it was an opportunity for us to actually spread the word, have the discussion, and hopefully out of that will become further discussion that everybody will take out of our meetings here and spread the word and keep that dialogue happening over time.
So you've already got 200 people signed up, I understand, for a small town of like Lac du Bonnet. That's a pretty good amount. Are you surprised, by how many people have signed up so quickly?
Not really. I think in general speaking, there is a high degree of interest, so that people really want to understand what it is has been going on and what can potentially be our path going forward. And also, there's a social aspect of it all as well. When people get together, oftentimes there is a coming together of the thought processes and the hopes and the dreams of all of the people that attend those things. And there's a sense of commonality and community which comes out of that, which is exactly what a good portion of the intent is to increase the knowledge in the community and increase the community's capacity to interact and interrelate with each other.
And what's going to be happening at the event itself? What can people expect if they're coming?
Well, what they'll be able to experience while they're there is we have some good, solid, old-time Métis music. We will have also some hoop dancers there. We want to be respectful as well as representative of all of the Indigenous groups that were here for the last 100, in fact, thousands of years. And we felt that as well as the entertainment, we would also have a couple of speakers come forward to provide to us an allegory, a story of what their experiences have been both in residential schools as well as throughout society. So it'll be a learning and sharing experience for everybody. And it's designed to be not a somber experience, but truthfully a freeing experience so that we can think about things a little bit differently.
And if people do want to come to the event, is it sold out or what do they need to know?
At this point, it's completely sold out. Yeah,
Wow.
We didn't anticipate the amount of interest that there would be. And hence, we believe that in all likelihood, we will be able to do something going forward. Of course, that all being contingent upon obtaining the appropriate funds in order to create these events. But we certainly have the support of the Manitoba Métis Federation because it's just how it is. And that's how it's supposed to work. We work together and we try to make things, available to the Métis citizens as well as the citizens of the province of Manitoba. We're all here. We're all in this together. And we're mostly all family.
And well, before I let you go here, as just personally for you as a Métis man, but also the mayor of the town, what does it mean to you personally to be having an event like this in your town?
It's for me personally, it's very heartwarming because a good portion of the people that live here in our region have known me for, I'm going to say, going on 66 decades, and it's important to me to be able to both relate to my community, my experience, the wonderful life I've had here in our community, and try to set some things straight that in our society in general, and let people know that I, as a Métis person, I'm not ashamed to be a Métis person, but there has been times when I was reticent to relate to other people that I was and am, in fact, a Métis person. And I shouldn't have to feel that way. I do not feel that way anymore. I would hope that everybody can relish what their roots are, regardless of where they come from, without having to denigrate anybody in any way, shape, or form. We're all the result of treaties that were signed, as well as efforts that were made to, in some cases, destroy or eliminate cultures. And I think we've moved forward greatly from there. And it's a huge opportunity for everybody.
I know you lived in the area for decades. Growing up as a little boy, at the time, do you ever think one day you could become, mayor of a place like that as a young Métis boy?
Not a thought at all. It never really entered into my mind until, I'm going to say, after my children were born. It was more a factor of I wanted to be able to pay back to my community for helping me to raise my children. I worked often away from the community. I lived here the whole time, but I worked away a lot. They got to participate in hockey, many sports. I made so many friends here, and their friends are now our friends, even though we're substantially older. I guess in some cases we may have been considered surrogate parents because we often had a house full of teenagers, and it was fantastic and awesome to be able to do that. And the kids come from everywhere within our community. There's no discrimination. We intermix freely out here, and it truly is a wonderful experience. And it's a lot different than where I grew up in the United States for a portion of my years, my formative years. And we did not experience a large portion of the culture of our surrounding community, never mind the Métis community at large. We were removed from here, and not forcibly. We moved with our parents ostensibly to avoid the potential of the 60s scoop. And most of my siblings, all of my siblings, were born in the United States. So we did come up here on a yearly basis, several times a year, to interconnect and be with our family up here as well. We had family in the United States, so it wasn't what we were totally cast adrift, but certainly they were different cultures.
Well, Ken, thanks so much for joining us this afternoon, and all the best with the event on Sunday.
Thank you very much. It was truly a pleasure speaking with you. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope it gives everybody just the opportunity just to think. We're all people, we're all treaty people, and we all have lives to lead and have the same hopes and aspirations.
Have a
wonderful day.
You too, Ken. That is Ken Lodge, the mayor of Lac du Bonny and chairperson of the Manitoba Métis Federation for Lac du Bonny Local. And the Pathways to Truth and Reconciliation event is happening this Sunday, September 29th from 3 to 7. And also just a heads up, in just a few weeks, CBC will be in Lac du Bonny from October 7th to 11th for Communities in Focus. And we want to tell as many stories as we can from the town and the surrounding area. Marcy Marcusa and I will be broadcasting information radio live from Drifters Inn on the morning of October 10th. So if you live in the area and you've got a story to tell, send me an email. I'd love to hear from you. I'll say it twice for you here. Corey.funk@cbc.ca. That's CORY.FUNK@cbc.ca.
Your local news at your fingertips.
CBC News has a local news app made for your phone or tablet.
So don't waste time scrolling for the local stories you want. Just download the app to get the information that matters to you when it happens.
And how you want it.
Another way to get your local news. The CBC News app. Download it today.
Your eye, it took me by surprise. I felt the ground beneath me shake. Then you held me through the night. Something just sound right. It's got me wide awake. It's the things you never said running in my head over and over and over. Almost make a believer of me, 'cause I lose myself in your eyes. Then like a hammer to my heart, I am blown apart when you reveal your pretty lies. Then you pick up the pieces and I'm back in your hand over and over and over and over and over again. Over and over and over and over and over again. Well, I've been here before, picking my heart up off the floor. Why am I giving myself to you?
That's Kaylee Cardinal with her song Over and Over. She's from Edmonton. And Kaylee Cardinal is actually one of the performers featured on Come Toward the Fire, presented by CBC Music's Reclaimed this Saturday night. It's also going to feature Tatasquiat Cree Nation's own Sebastian Gaskin, as well as other artists like Fawn Wood. You could hear it on CBC Radio 1, 9 p.m. On Saturday. The concert would also be rebroadcast on the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation on CBC Music at 5 p.m. Well, still to come here on Radio Noon, the Canadian Taxpayers Federation is going to be joining us here in studio because we're going to be talking about the extension of Manitoba's gas tax holiday. Do you like it? Do you not? Are you happy about it? Maybe you aren't. We'd love to hear from you. We're going to open up the phone lines shortly here on Radio Noon. That's all coming up after your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good afternoon. I'm Rosanna Hempel. At 12:30, it's 25 in Winnipeg. Sunny today, south wind gusting to 70 kilometers an hour, a high of 29. The final pieces are coming together for the redevelopment of downtown Winnipeg's Portage Place Mall. The federal government is slated to assist the $650 million project. The CBC's Bartley Kivas reports.
Federal Liberal Cabinet Minister Dan Vandal is holding a news conference on Friday at Portage Place. He's expected to announce a federal contribution toward the proposed redevelopment of the mall. Government sources say it will be $10 million towards community spaces in the project. The real estate wing of the company that owns the Winnipeg Jets has until the end of this month to close a deal to purchase the mall and redevelop it. True North Real Estate Development's plans include a healthcare tower on one side, a residential tower on the other, and replacing the glass atrium in the middle of the mall with a new block of Edmonton Street. City Council is slated to vote today on a $40 million package of municipal grants and tax relief for the project. The province has agreed to lease space in the healthcare tower for 35 years. That works out to $77 million above existing healthcare spending. Bartley Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
It's time to change the law regulating minimum wage so Manitobans can earn a living wage. That's according to the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives and the Manitoba Federation of Labour. A Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives study has found for a family of four with two working parents, to cover their expenses, they need to earn $19.21 an hour. The study found 1 in 4 workers earn less than that. Kevin Rebeck is with the Manitoba Federation of Labour.
And I find it always interesting when some other expense goes up for business, it's the price of doing business. But when we talk about paying people a fair wage, and so when they work full-time, they don't live in poverty, well, oh no, hold on, we've got to draw the line there. That's a pretty funny place to draw the line. I think workers deserve better.
The study found most people earning minimum wage are between 24 and 54 years old and have post-secondary education. Now to Ottawa.
The House has lost confidence in the government.
From the floor of the House of Commons, that is another non-confidence motion being put forward by the opposition Conservatives. With the help of the NDP and the Bloc Québécois, the Liberals survived an identical non-confidence vote yesterday. Now the Conservatives are trying again. Today's motion will be voted on next week. That is the CBC News from Winnipeg. Your next local CBC News is at 1:30.
Thank you very much, Rosanna.
You're welcome.
That is Rosanna Hempel at our CBC News Desk. I'm Corey Funk. You're listening to Radio Noon here on CBC Radio 1. And with us here in studio is our weather specialist and climate change reporter, Riley Laychuk. And boy, oh boy, is it even September?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
you have to think twice.
Yeah,
right?
seriously, it's a beach day. What the heck? Yeah, what's going on out there?
So calm conditions through Manitoba. Sunshine, hot temperatures continue. I want to start, though, south of the border, talking about the latest on Hurricane Helene, which is spinning through the Gulf of Mexico right now. Currently at a Category 2, sustained winds at 165 kilometers an hour. This looks like it's going for a direct hit on places like Tallahassee, around the Big Bend of Florida, maintaining Category 1 status at least through parts of Georgia through the next 24 hours. So we're looking at some pretty significant precipitation through the southern states. We could start to see through at least parts of Ontario potentially some cloud cover, maybe a couple of scattered showers through the weekend as a result of this, but generally speaking, this stays south of the border. So
okay.
That's that. Here in Manitoba, mainly sunny skies right now, a bit of cloud cover into northwestern Manitoba. What we're seeing, though, is the beginnings of a weak area of low pressure that will bring a little bit of rain to parts of northwestern Manitoba, which I'll get into in just a moment. We'll take a look at temperatures right now. 26 in Winnipeg and Dauphin, Brandon 25, The Pas 25 at the moment, 23 in Thompson. Normal daytime high for this time of the year is 15 degrees. So it just gives you a sense of just how warm we are from this ridge of high pressure, which is allowing some of that warm Gulf air from the States really to funnel into the southern prairie provinces. Maybe a bit of cloud cover as we get through the evening into the overnight period tonight here in the south. Some straggling cloud from this area of low pressure that will move into northern Manitoba, bringing with it maybe a couple millimeters of rain to places like Flin Flon through Lynn Lake into the Thompson region. Otherwise, we stay mainly sunny into the day on Friday, and that really continues as we get into Saturday. The other thing I'll note today will be the winds. Looking at winds out of the south and southwest, gusting up to 60. Could even see some gusts up to 70 through the Red River Valley this afternoon. Back to the west, more like 20 gusting 40. We do keep the gusty winds tonight, but they do start to die off as we get into the day on Friday. Could crack 30 in Brandon today, 31 in Melita, 29s for Winnipeg, Morden, Winkler, Portage, high 20s into the Interlake as well today. 23 tomorrow under a mainly sunny sky, 26s for Saturday, Sunday. I've got a good chance of showers in the forecast for Monday, and then we're really falling back into more fall-like temperatures into the mid-teens by the time we get to mid next week.
That's exciting.
So
good.
It's going to be a quick fall from this summer-like weather down to
I'm okay with it. I'm the kind of guy who give me the change in season. As soon as it's like, as soon as school starts, it's like, let's get chilly. Let's get those long johns on. I'm ready for it. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Riley.
You're welcome.
That is Riley Lachuk, our CBC's climate change reporter. Well, the time now is 12:36 here on Radio Noon, and here's a number for you. $14, that is. That's how much a pickup truck owner saves every time they go to the pump here, says the government of Manitoba. That's thanks to the 14 cent per liter gas tax holiday that's been in place since January. And now that holiday has been extended until the end of the year by the province, and that's music to the ears of Gage Hobrecht, the Prairie Director with the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, who's with us here in studio. Hello there, Gage.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to chatting with you. I'm also looking forward to hearing from listeners. So we're going to open up the phone line here. We want to hear, what do you think about the extension of this gas tax holiday? How has it impacted your life so far? How has it helped your budget? What do you think about what it might mean for Manitoba's budget? Would you like to see it stick around, maybe even longer, or do you think it's time to bring the tax back? So give us a call. I'm sure there's been lots of opinions. I remember when we opened up the phone lines when they first announced it, lots of people have thoughts about this, and we're happy to hear from you. Give us a call. The phone lines are open. 204-780-0893 is the number to call. That's 204-780-0893. And if you're not much of a talker and you'd rather text, you can text us too, 204-588-7355. That's 204-588-7355. Now, Gage, you've been advocating for this holiday to be extended and even actually made permanent as well. So why do you think eliminating the gas tax entirely is the best move for Manitoba?
Well, it's one of the easiest ways that the government can save people money. Unlike some types of affordability schemes, it doesn't take any more bureaucrats. It doesn't take sending a check to taxpayers from the government. One day the government's charging 14 cents on gas, one day they're not, and that means Manitobans can save. And when we look at it at a wholesale, in Manitoba, if you're a family making around $75,000 a year, even with the gas tax cut savings, you're still paying more taxes than a similar family in Saskatchewan, Alberta, Ontario, or British Columbia. So it's kind of up to the government to make sure that they're helping keep Manitoba as affordable as possible. And one way to do that is to have Broadway take less money out of your pocket.
And yourself, I know you kind of split your time between Manitoba and Saskatchewan. What have you noticed in terms of the impact it's had on your pocketbooks? Because you're kind of spending a lot of time driving.
No, exactly. When I cross over the Saskatchewan border and I get to Brandon, I notice that gas is about 14 cents cheaper than it is in Saskatchewan. So, when I head home later today back to Saskatchewan and make sure I fill up in Manitoba and get those savings.
Yeah. We want to hear from you. Give us a call if you have any thoughts. 204-780-0893. That's 204-780-0893. Or you can text us 204-588-7355. Are you on board with what Gage has to say? Or maybe you think otherwise? I know there are critics of the gas tax holiday, like the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives. They note that the cut means $340 million less in revenue this year for the province of Manitoba, which, we're not necessarily flush with cash as a province right now. We're facing nearly a $2 billion deficit. And, the new NDP, well, it's not quite new, I guess, anymore. The NDP government is promising to do things like, fix healthcare, balance the budget. So what do you make of that critique that, this is revenue that could be used otherwise?
So to regular people, right, $340 million is a lot of money. And it is a lot of money. But we look at the billions of dollars that the government spends. The total gas tax cut revenue for an entire year, as it'll be now, is only 1.4% of total government revenue. So when we look at the deficit, this wouldn't move in that path. The government would still be spending too much money. So it's not up to taxpayers to give the premier more money to spend and go into deficit. It's up to the government to find ways to save money and then keep life more affordable.
Right. Are you concerned at all that, cutting this means that the government might have to raise taxes elsewhere? Like, how concerned are you about that?
Well, I think that if the premier did that, it would be probably the worst move possible and make no one happy, right? Because the reason that taxpayers are so excited about the gas tax cut is because they're paying less in taxes overall. So if the premier went back and raised taxes somewhere else, it would simply be shifting the burden, and we'd have no more money in our pockets.
Give us a call. How do you feel at the pump? Does the gas tax break make a difference for you? 204-780-0893 is the number to call. 204-780-0893. You could also text us 204-588-7355. Now, Premier Wab Kinew hinted a month ago that fiscal restraint is coming, right? As someone who generally advocates for less taxes, do you think that, it's just inevitable that somewhere else, they are going to have to, I kind of to ask you how concerned you are, but, do you think that we can literally, it's all just restraint and spending, we'll get there to balancing that budget?
I think it definitely is. The premier's even said it's a balancing act about investing and going to these tax cuts. Because, of course, the government can't just spend money on everything. There simply isn't enough money in the pot. So they have to look at the important things that actually matter to Manitobans and then look at cutting on the wasteful stuff. So, we saw in the last budget, the government announced about $60 million worth of new corporate welfare programs. So taking Manitobans' money and handing it out to corporations. One of the easiest ways the government can move is say that Manitobans' taxpayer dollars should be used for Manitoban programs, not for corporations, and that be able to extend the gas tax cut at least 2 months just by slamming that one program.
Is that the main thing? Is there any other place you see that the government could cut to find more places to balance the budget, which seems like it's going to be a tall order?
There's a couple things on there. We've seen that since the government has come in, they've hired about $40 million worth of new government employees, and that's an annual cost. So when the government's looking at stuff like that, they need to find out whether or not the people they're hiring, it is worth to keep that in the government for the long term, because it's not just the $140 million this year, because everybody's hired now, it's going to be $40 million next year. And they came in inheriting a huge deficit from the last government. So they have to find a way to look for savings in this aspect and not simply spend more money.
You think they should cut some government jobs is the move?
I think that's possible. We saw, I don't have the exact numbers right now, but there was a couple hundred clerks that were hired for this position, which, compared to things like, and there's only 2 doctors on that list of that 40 million, somewhere around there. So when you're balancing that out, of course, healthcare is really important. So you think, should we spend this more money on doctors versus the clerk number, for example?
We have Maureen on the line. Hello there, Maureen. Oh, I think we just have to. I just got to get the phone here. 1 second. I put it 1 second here. Welcome to live radio, everybody. There you go. Hi there, Maureen.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. Sorry, that's my fault. I didn't bring the phone close to me.
That's all right. That's all right.
Yeah, Maureen, what's your thoughts?
Well, I think this is a very poor use of our tax dollars, and I'm quite disappointed in the Tax Federation for thinking that it's a good use. The way this tax savings works is that the more you drive, the more relief you're getting. So we're actually, with this, encouraging driving. when from a climate perspective, we should be reducing the amount that people drive. And as well, I would think, well, I agree, and I think most people would like to see, and I would hope the Federation would like to see our tax dollars help the most vulnerable people. And the most vulnerable people, the people with the least income, don't even have vehicles. So they're not seeing any direct savings from this. So very disappointed that the government chose to do this.
Gage, I imagine you've got a response. What do you make of Maureen's criticism?
No, for sure. Thanks for that, Maureen. Well, I'd say there's two things. In lots of examples, especially in rural Manitoba, it isn't a choice whether to drive or not. People have to go to work every day. They have to take their kids to any types of sports practice. Sometimes they can't afford to buy a brand new vehicle that's better on gas. So making the savings in there is a good way to increase that affordability. And, Manitobans seem to think that way too. We did a poll earlier this summer that saw that 71% of Manitobans want the government to extend the gas tax cut, which they just did. And I think the Premier is right to follow that poll when it's saying that a clear majority of Manitobans want to keep saving money.
I'll also say we got a text as well there, Gage, from Sylvie, who said, "I'm disappointed the province extended the tax gas holiday. This will not shift our behavior on using less fossil fuels." So similar to what Maureen has to say. The money could be used to help lower income population, since many don't own vehicles. Let's invest in public transportation instead. And Maureen, while we still got you on the line, have you noticed a difference for yourself in your pocketbooks, since this gas tax was lifted?
Well, and I try as much as possible to ride my bike to places or to rent to places. I do use a vehicle when I have to make longer trips out of the city, but I'm not one of the most vulnerable in society. And so to me, if I have a vehicle, I should be paying my taxes to drive that vehicle because it costs a heck of a lot to keep roads in enough condition for all those vehicles. And so I think those of us who are driving should be paying for that.
Maureen, thanks so much for your perspective on this. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
And what do you make? Because the reality is, at the end of the day, the government needs to collect taxes to pay for things like roads. And maybe if we are incentivizing more driving through, like kind of Maureen argues, through this, are we just kind of leading ourselves into this kind of cycle of just constantly needing to spend more money on things like roads, or maybe we could be spending more money on things like keep this gas tax to disincentivize things and spend it on transportation. And maybe that is there an argument there that it is a better use of our tax dollars? It could save us in the long run.
Well, I think the greatest thing to look at, again, is how much tax that Manitobans are paying. The provincial government spends, more than $20 billion a year, and that comes from Manitoba families that pay, on average, a lot more tax than similar families in Western Canada. So the government has a lot of money to spend, but it's about petitioning where they should make it on those priorities. An extra $340 million, instead of going back to Manitobans' pockets, isn't going to solve all these problems. So you have to look at the government saying, where is the rest of these $20 billion going that we're not making progress on these things that people think are important?
We've heard from Maureen. We've heard from Sylvie as well. You can keep the conversation going. Give us a call, 204-780-0893. That's 204-780-0893. 893. We heard from Maureen. I am curious to hear from folks who might have to drive every day. What are you hearing? Is this incentivizing you to drive more, or is this something that's really made a difference for you and your family, or not? I would love to hear from you. We are approaching a year since the NDP took the reins. And what have you noticed in terms of you are clearly for this policy? Are there any other ways that they're spending money that you are concerned about?
Well, one of the programs that I think the Premier has a good system to change is over the last 2 years, the government has spent about $360,000 on electric vehicle chargers sponsored by the province. Mm-hmm. And that could be a fine way to spend money. But the problem is that the government never checked on if people were using them. So I think a big point going forward is that when the government commits to spend money on a project, it should be in a way that makes it so they're actually getting value for what they're doing.
I finally got the phone here, so thanks for that. We do have a call waiting for us. We have Michael here online too. Hello there, Michael.
Hi there.
Hey, tell us. I understand you're a driver. How yourself? What have you noticed about the impact the gas tax holiday has had on you?
Well, I guess I would consider myself maybe mid to lower income, and but I do have to drive. Prices of gas. I've moved across provinces a little bit and drive between provinces. I haven't noticed a huge difference. And personally, I guess if I knew that this money would have been going towards, like I said, the climate incentives or something like that, I guess I would be willing to pay that extra because we don't really have control over the prices. Sometimes we'll see them skyrocket. So to know that they're taking away perhaps extra income for the coffers, I guess, in my opinion, I would have rather pay the extra because it wouldn't have broken the bank for me.
Really appreciate your input there, Michael. Actually, the phone line is kind of blowing up a little bit now. We're going to go to Greg as well, who's standing by. Hi there, Greg.
Hi, how are you?
Good. What's your thoughts on the gas tax holiday?
Well, I have a couple of questions. First of all is where's the $300 million that they're not collecting? Where's it going to come from now? It's got to come from somewhere.
Right.
Or they got to cut services. And the second question is, how are they going to manage the end of the tax holiday? On January 1st, are they going to suddenly say, okay, the price of gas is going to go up 20 cents?
Right.
Makes me think they either didn't plan it or it's not going to end.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess, and as far as governing by poll, if a government wants to govern by poll, we don't really need leaders, do we? We just do whatever the poll says.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure their poll, with respect to everybody wanting the gas tax to disappear, didn't add the question of, well, what do you want to replace it with?
Right.
So let's have them answer those questions. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks there, Greg. I was going to follow up. I mean, there is, I guess, the political motivation, the polls so far. How concerned are you that that they might lift the gas tax in January, and how that might impact your advocacy there, Gage?
I think it would be unfortunate. We'll obviously see in 3 months where things are at. The government's supposed to be putting forward their fiscal update sometime soon. As well. But from our perspective for taxpayers, the longer the taxpayers can keep saving money, the better. Over the course of this year, if you're a family and you have 2 cars and you fill up once every 2 weeks, so you're not driving the most, but you're also still getting out there, you could save about $600 a year from what we see this. And kind of talking about the change in prices, of course, we see gas prices change about once every couple of days, going everywhere depending on what's going on. But since the gas tax has been cut on January 1st, Manitoba has had the lowest fuel prices in the country. And one of the biggest reasons for that is because we're not paying that provincial gas tax here.
We've got Dan on the line here as well. Hi there, Dan.
Hey, how are you?
Good. What's your thoughts on the gas tax holiday being extended?
Well, can we start by elaborating here, clearing things up, because the tax that you're talking about in question that we have a holiday from is the carbon tax, right?
Mm-hmm.
So gas, if you look at it on a pie chart, is already taxed to the hilt. So getting this tax thrown on us and then having a holiday from it, like we're really where we were at 4 or 5 years ago. Because with all honesty, you call it a gas tax, but it's not. Because gas fuel is already taxed. Like that's not going anywhere. What we have a holiday from is the carbon tax. It's Trudeau's answer to everything is taxing fuel, and this was supposed to go towards finding ways of helping the environment. Now this money now is thrown into a general fund, and I think this should just go away, and they should find a better way to spend money. Because honestly, this gas tax holiday, it's smoke and mirrors. Basically, it's the carbon tax that they just threw on us that we're having a holiday from. So, people are forgetting that gas and diesel is already taxed, and it's like more than half of what we pay is tax on our fuel.
Thanks for that, Dan. Gage, what are your thoughts on what Dan has to say there?
So I think that's kind of an important point, actually. So when we look at Manitoba in general, about 30% of the pump price without the provincial gas tax is other types of taxes. And, what we've seen from Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is he wants to continue to hike his own carbon tax, which is charged to gas. Right now, it's about 17 cents a liter. So I think Dan is right that basically Premier Canoe offsetting that with his own thing still makes gas about 3 cents more expensive than it would be with no taxes. But I think that's a good point when we move into the end of this gas tax holiday. Only a couple months after that, in April, the Prime Minister is going to hike his carbon tax to 21 cents a liter. So if we're looking at January 1st, and Manitobans are hit with a 14 cents per liter gas tax hike from the province, and then a 5 cents gas tax hike from the federal government only a couple of months later, that's going to put it in your pocketbooks.
And Dan, while we got you on the line, I'm curious to yourself, what have you noticed the impact it's had on you this gas tax holiday? Has it had any impact or not?
I go through a lot of fuel myself. I drive semi-truck, so the price of diesel is higher than the price of gasoline, which is preposterous anyway. So it makes a difference in everybody's bottom line. Like even my own personal vehicle, it's I used to be able to fill my truck with $80, and now I'm looking at about $120, $130 every time I fill. It's making a huge difference.
That's really helpful for your perspective. Thanks so much. Really appreciate that, Dan.
Thank you for listening.
Yeah. We also got one text as well from Dave. We're going to be wrapping it up shortly here. And thanks for everyone who's called and texted so far. The tax holiday, he says, is short-sighted. Forward-thinking is installing EV chargers. I know you were talking about that before they're engaged, but there's ways to do that well and not, like you were saying. So he says I can communicate I can commute on renewable energy. So he thinks that's where we should really be putting our money in the long term. Thanks for that text there, Dave, and thanks for everyone who've called so far today. Before I let you go there, Gage, any final thoughts in terms of where you'd like to see the price of gas go and the way the government handles it?
Well, I'd just like to see the Premier do as much as he can, obviously, to make life more affordable for Manitobans. I think one of the biggest problems with how the extension has been handled is we only heard about it, 4 days before it was scheduled to expire. So when we get to the end of this next 3 months, the Premier shouldn't leave taxpayers waiting for as long as he did. Having people have to plan whether or not they're going to be paying more for gas on Monday is an important thing. So there should be enough time for the Premier to say, okay, we're going to keep you saving money, or we decided not to, but there needs to be something that shows we're making sure you're not waiting with bated breath until the last moment.
Well, Gage, thanks so much for joining us, and safe travels back to Saskatchewan today.
Thanks for having me.
That is Gage Haubrich, the Prairie Director with the Canadian Taxpayers Federation.
The CBC News app delivers the answers you want to know and need to know.
What an extraordinary scene.
The breaking stories that shape your world. Reporting from the scene onto your screens.
Dropping the 8 now, we're just approaching Gaza.
Your source for mobile news. Delivered when you want, where you want.
This situation has changed very quickly.
The CBC News app. Download for free.
Well, we're coming up to the end of Radio Noon here, but in studio now with me is Faith Wendell, the host of Up to Speed. And Faith, what can folks expect this afternoon?
Hello, Corey. There might be no skateboarding signs up at Old Market Square, but it's about to change at least in one spot. We're going to tell you why and how it's got some skateboarders very excited right now. Also, coming up on the program, it's not exactly the Nobel Prizes, but the Ig Nobel Prizes are a lot more fun.
Ig Nobel Prizes.
Ig Nobel Prizes.
Okay.
Science columnist Caricature is going to have more on the wackiest prize in science.
Oh.
That's on the program today.
Okay, I'm excited about that. Thank you very much, Faith.
Thank you.
That is Faith Wendell, the host of Up to Speed. You can catch them today from 3 to 6. Big thanks to everyone who helped put together today's show. Our technician, Marshall Hodgins, our director, Wendy Parker, our YouTube live stream producer, Kevin Nipatebo. I'm Corey Funk. It's been a pleasure spending the noon hour with you. And thanks to everyone who called in and texted. It ended up being a really fulsome conversation, I thought. So thank you very much for that. Hope you all get out there and enjoy this surprisingly warm fall day. And you can get outside, maybe spend some time Do something you love with the people you love. Coming up on CBC Radio 1, Quirks and Quarks. Have a good one.